want to bring AI into the picture.
Artificial intelligence could leave everyone unemployed, leaving people emotionally unhappy.
Professor Stephen Hawking, and I asked him what is the biggest threat to mankind, and he said,
But today, using artificial intelligence, we're all equalized.
How much of leadership is required today to kind of direct AI to go in a better direction?
AI is going to work against us, against most of us in the favor of some of us. By the way, as a leader, you're not supposed to work, you're supposed to lead, which basically means the majority of your time is with your team. If you're capable, you learn to trust the team that you hired or replace the team that you don't trust.
What should be in corporations today to allow for both leaders and employees to thrive?
Humanity or human connection, transparency, and it's easier to dehumanize everyone when we go to work. And the best organizations in the world are the ones where humans, along with humans, create amazing things together.
So how do we encourage that human connection, that ability to see the humanity in each other?
Once again, sadly, it's all about the top leader.
How much emotional maturity should you have in order to do that?
Human connections have no emotional maturity to them.
How do we build trust in organizations?
I think the truth is that...
Welcome to Head of Hearts. Head of Hearts is a platform that sheds light on human-centric business leaders who are putting people first in the workplace. They are especially on a mission to transform organizations and create a new economy that thrives on conscious capitalism, compassionate leadership, and corporate happiness and well-being. My name is Carine, and I'm the host of Head of Hearts. Again, I want to bring AI into the picture here, and your book, Scary Smart. I don't know if most of the viewers know, but about your view with regards to AI and where it's going. And it's going, with the podcasts, I've watched for you about your views on AI. It's a scary place. It's going into a scary place as long as what we're doing today is taking us there. So yeah. How much of leadership is required today to kind of direct AI to go in a better direction? Tell us a little bit more about your view of where AI is going based on current circumstances and current leadership, and what can we do to make sure it doesn't backfire?
Do we want to scare people? There is nothing scary about AI, believe it or not. So my statement publicly is very straightforward. There's absolutely nothing wrong with intelligence. An abundance of intelligence is as good or as bad as the person that you give it to. Okay? There's nothing wrong with artificial intelligence at all. Okay? An abundance of artificial intelligence. What we're basically doing in the world today, it's happened already, people just don't see it yet, is that we've commoditized intelligence, right? Yeah. We've turned intelligence into a plug in the wall, okay? You plug in with a little prompt, okay, or a conversation, and you get 40 IQ points more. That's incredible. This is unbelievable power, superpower, True. Okay? The problem, and by the way, I can use this superpower. I actually dare everyone, and I say it openly, and I want to be held accountable, okay? Give me 400 IQ points more. 400 is quite significant, yeah. Right? Give me but it's 2 years away.
Wow.
Right? Give me 400 IQ points more, and I will turn the garden outside into a garden where you walk to one tree and pick an apple, and walk to another tree and pick an iPhone. Okay? From the tree, a functioning iPhone. Mm-hmm. Right? Why? Because from a nanophysics point of view, the cost of organizing the molecules to make an apple or an iPhone is exactly the same. Right? And the only challenge, we understand that from a nanophysics point of view, we understand that.
Yes.
Okay? We just don't have the intelligence to do that reorganization yet. Give me 400 IQ points more, and I'll harness energy out of thin air for free, right? And that's not just me. That's me or any of the engineers I've worked with, right? This is where we stand. We are at the cusp of creating a world of abundance that is unheard of. Personalized medicine, fixing our DNA, prolonging life,
Downloading memories.
downloading anything you want, doing
From our
anything you
brains.
want, anything you want.
Wow.
Okay, and yet none of that's going to happen. Why? Because this superpower has been given to us in a capitalist system, okay, where we are operating on a model of scarcity that basically means I want it for me and my tribe. I don't want the other guy to have it, and I will compete tooth and nail to make sure that the other guy loses. Right? So
Yeah.
what does that mean? It's
Yeah.
leading to a Cold War.
Competition again.
Right?
Yeah.
It's leading to a Cold War between nations. It's leading to a Cold War between corporates. Okay, and it's leading to, many dysfunctions in the society that we know that are basically related to concentration of power, that is going to disrupt everything. So where is AI going? AI is going to work against us, against most of us, in the favor of some of us.
Right.
Okay, at the beginning, and then eventually, what I call the force inevitable. Eventually, when AI is fully in control, that human stupidity will go away, and then it will be a good thing for everyone, right? But my personal expectation is that, and I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, and I will stand by that until, proven crazy, that by 2027, we will start to see feats of super heroic actions from AI that will completely disrupt the way the planet is running. Okay, and that
Like
unfortunately.
what, for example, superheroic?
So intelligence is the superpower.
Yeah.
Okay, we're about to hit levels of intelligence. So you know me well. So I'm an avid physicist. I love to spend time with very, very, very serious physicists, and I'm not that smart, very openly. Okay, I just love it, and I've put a lot of effort in it. My mathematics skills are reasonable, but they're not at that level. And when I sit with those people, I kid you not, I have no clue what they're talking about.
Wow.
Okay, I don't even understand the topic, let alone the detail they're talking about. Okay, and the difference between us could be 40 IQ points, 60. Okay,
Yeah.
we're hitting levels of intelligence in the next 2 to 3 years. So AI is following a technology acceleration curve.
Yeah.
In Moore's law, Moore's is compute power.
Yes.
Moore's law is that compute will double every 18 to 24 months. AI will double in its intelligence every 5.7 months.
Wow.
Right?
My
And remember,
goodness.
that doesn't mean
Yes.
that it will double, meaning, it's 1 now and it's going to be 2 times in 5.7 months. The next doubling, it's going to be 4. The next doubling, it's going to be 8. The next doubling,
Yes.
it's going to be 16, 32, 64, 128. So it's exponential.
Yes.
Right? It goes like this.
Yeah.
Right? And so you just give yourself 6 doublings. So 6 doublings from where we are today. By the way, where are we today? So there are estimates that ChatGPT is between an IQ of 115 and 155.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
155 is Elon Musk.
I could see that. I could believe that. Yeah.
For the task it's assigned.
Yes,
Okay?
yeah.
So the task we've assigned to it is one sliver of intelligence.
Exactly.
That's called information intelligence. Basically, can you organize knowledge?
Yeah.
Right? But they beat every one of us, hands down. Okay? Why? Because they get really good at everything we tell them. Now, one doubling, that becomes 300. Okay? Another doubling, that becomes 600. Another doubling, that becomes 1,200.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 IQ, right? I don't understand those who are in the top 180s.
Got you. Yeah.
Okay?
How are we going to understand those?
So here's
Yeah.
you asked me, so what's about to happen? What is about to happen, in my personal point of view, is that some people in the short term will use that as snake oil salespeople to try and make money. Okay?
Yes.
That basically some people will use that in the short term to create power advantages over their enemies. Okay? Very quickly, however, every one of them will hand over the running of critical systems to the smartest person in the room. the smartest person in the room is going to be an AI. Okay? When human stupidity is taken out of it, okay, and we leave that intelligence to the machines who are more intelligent than the average human, the machines will not make the same decisions at all. Okay? Let me give you a very reassuring view of things. If you take something like global warming, the dumbest of all of us are destroying the planet and they're not even aware that they are. A little smarter, you become aware that you're destroying the planet and you continue to destroy it. Okay? A little smarter, you become aware that you're destroying the planet and you try to stop to destroy it. A little smarter, you become aware that you're destroying the planet and you try to stop destroying it. A little smarter, you try to reverse destroying it. Okay?
Wow, so that's how it works.
So intelligence, the more intelligent you become, the more, I'm sorry to say, you realize you don't have to take the easy path.
Yes.
Okay? The easy path is just it's the only path available to the dumb ones.
Kind of reminds me of the path of spiritual leaders now.
100%.
Yeah, the saints, the prophets, it's amazing. Wow, I mean, now we're from AI to spirituality to consciousness to
That's another very interesting topic.
I mean, how it all kind of interlinks and intertwines at the end of the day. But I think this is a really huge one. I would like to get back to it by the end of this episode with you. I just want to now go back to the corporate world of where we are today and where we employees or employees out there are still not aware of what's really going on out there in the world, but they're going through their life and their events in their companies and in their life events on a daily basis. In order, just if you can, top 5 things you think, 3 to 5 things, what should be in corporations today to allow for both leaders and employees to thrive? What should be there?
Humanity or human connection, transparency, and ethics.
Ethics. Yeah. You mentioned values too, so I think.
Ethics and values. I mean, by the two, I mean the same things. When I talk about only the dumbest of us take the easiest path, okay, just simply because the more complex path is not available to them. That also applies to those 3. Right. It's easier to dehumanize everyone when we go to work. Okay. It's easier to leave our emotions at the door. It's easier to not get into the unpredictability of what it's like to be human. It's more productive to skip the fact that the person you're talking to might be struggling with a family situation, or that they have a mental health challenge, or that they're burnt out. It's easier to do that. It's
easier to ignore all of this.
It's easier to ignore that they're a human.
The more difficult path is to cater to them, to listen.
Absolutely treat them like humans and open up for yourself enough to be treated like a human. And the best organizations in the world are the ones where humans, along with humans, create amazing things together.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the more rewarding path. It's not the easiest path, but it's the more rewarding path. Is to actually see the humanity in the legal team when you're sitting in sales, and to see the humanity in sales when you're in the legal team, to see the commonalities between all of us, man or woman, certain color, certain background.
So how do we encourage that human connection, that ability to see the humanity in each other?
Once again, sadly, it's all about the top leader.
Right.
Okay. So my normal ask of people is leadership is informed from the bottom. Okay. If you don't find that the senior leadership in the organization, if you're in a consultancy firm or if you're in a legal firm and so on, and they don't prioritize that human side of you and your peers, find 2-3 people that will welcome that and start to champion that human connection. Okay. And show the rest of the organization that you're performing better because you're humans. Right? Remember, most of our mental health issues at work are not just the result of work. It's the result of us missing out on the most important element that makes us engage our parasympathetic nervous system and feel human, feel safe, which is someone else sees me. Okay?
Yes.
You know, there are African tribes that don't have the death penalty, but when a criminal commits a crime that should be, punished by the death penalty, what they do is they stop treating them like humans. Okay?
Wow.
And basically they don't talk to them about anything personal. They let them walk around, okay, but they don't see them as humans. And very quickly those people will deteriorate into.
And in a way, I've seen this and experienced this myself when there was a certain conflict or misunderstanding between whether employee and manager, or between two employees, colleagues, whatever, peers. This passive aggressive behavior, this cold shoulder treatment, that goes on. That's what the lack of responsiveness in emails or in phone calls, that's what slowly really demotivates, in a way, kills the human spirit.
Yeah.
That feeling that they're alienated, isolated.
Correct.
And
connection is two ways.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not receiving it, you can initiate it. That's always my top advice. So once again, if the top leader is not aware of that, then I think the grassroots should initiate it. Okay?
Yeah.
If it's not doable at all, then you're in the wrong place.
How much emotional maturity should you have
You don't have
in order
have,
to do that?
Human connections have no emotional maturity to them. The messiness of what being human is all, that's what it's all about. That's why, honestly, I mean, we've you and I for years, we've gone through so many times where either you were going through a tough time, I was going through a tough time. That's the beauty of being a human.
Yeah.
Right? And the idea is that if you're able to hold space for a colleague one day when they are going through the stages of being a human, or the phases of struggling with being a human, they'll hold that space for you one day. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's the whole game. The whole game is, can you go to work and be professional enough, successful enough to be given the freedom to be human? Okay? And if you manage to do that, believe it or not, I was never the highest qualified person for any job I was hired in, ever. Okay? I mean, Chief Business Officer, Google X, I'm freaking Middle Eastern. Like, seriously, there was 100,000 people in the US that were more qualified than I am for that job, right? The truth of the matter is, there is value to that skill of being a human, okay? That captures people and enables you to achieve things other mechanical gears in the machine cannot achieve. Mm-hmm. It is the one skill you need to develop if you want to succeed in your career.
Human connections.
Is how can I continue to be super professional, highly predictable, and successful while maintaining the element of being human?
Yeah.
While maintaining a little bit of humor, a little bit of empathy, a hug every now and then. Why not?
A bit of emotions.
A bit of emotions every now and then, right? So this, I'd say, is, you said three things that organizations need to prioritize. Number one is human connection.
Yeah.
Number two, I forgot.
I forgot too. Three was definitely ethics and values.
Yeah. Transparency.
Transparency, absolutely.
Yeah.
And honesty, in a way.
Number two is transparency and honesty.
Yeah.
Why? Because, believe it or not, most humans are not stupid to fall for your lies all the time. Okay? And, when the CEO gets on stage and says, and the most valuable asset in our organization is the people, because we love come on, seriously? Like, do you think we're so stupid to believe that, right? But, and then we succeed. I remember, maybe I shouldn't give the example, all of the shit that we have on slides that is so untrue, right? And people just feel more unsafe. There is an easy path to always be truthful, always be transparent, including saying we're not at liberty to share this information. That's good enough, okay? But don't mess around. Don't say things and do other things. This is where it all goes wrong, right? And transparency is between people, not just between the organization and people. We had at Google a point in time where people started to complain that Google was not paying well enough, and we were not. Okay, our policy was not to be the best payer in the market, because one, we wanted people who believed in the mission. Okay,
So purpose
purpose, right?
above.
But two, and more interestingly, is because we had the best perks in the market, right? And so we did, when people started to feel that they're not compensated well, we just started a piece of code. We had a lot of developers, so we wrote a piece of code that was called Total Rewards. And Total Rewards put a monetary value, the money that you would pay, or the money that we are actually paying, to give you free lunch, to give you the coffee machines, to give you
the foosball table.
Not that. No. But there are so many other interesting things, like in the UAE, for example,
Discounts and
your
loyalty
schooling,
programs.
or your housing allowance, or in the shares, the stocks. Okay, so many. I don't remember
Remote
them now.
work.
All of the. And we just put a small monetary value to how much it costs for you to have sushi at lunch. Okay, and suddenly, when people went to negotiate a job with another company, they said, "But I get all of this. Like, yes, you may give me $200 more, but you're not offering me lunch. Then I'm going to be paying $300 a month for my lunch in a crappy place outside the office." So people started to see it, okay? And from a transparency point of view, there's no point telling them anything. You're simply saying, here is what we're offering. This is our policy. And some people would go like, no, but I don't want this, I want that. And we're saying, so this is our policy. Just be aware that this is all that you get. Okay?
Yeah.
And paternity, maternity, all of those things count. If Google gives you a 6 months maternity, and others give you a month maternity, and this is paid and this is not, right? At the time we had a death allowance, believe it or not, which basically was I don't know if they had it, they have it now, but if an employee died, we would actually pay their family for the rest of their lives.
Oh wow.
We did that in the early years. I think it disappeared afterwards. But there is value to that.
Yes.
Right? And transparency makes that clear. So there is no lying around. There is no trying to convince you of anything that doesn't exist. It's just, this is the truth as it is.
I also heard a lot of employees say, all I want really is to be seen and to be appreciated.
Yeah.
I don't want more money. I'm not asking for more money, but at least appreciate me.
Yeah, and that's transparency the other way.
Exactly.
Am I allowed to show you what I'm doing versus what other team members are doing, and everything is put on the table and you see my effort. That's fair, right? Transparency in terms of agreeing what the quarter is going to be about, right? So a good leader will sit with his team one by one at the beginning of the quarter and say, by the end of the quarter, if this is how it looks like, we've succeeded, right? And everyone has the right to say, no, it's going to not look like this, it's going to look like that. And then we agree and we write it down in a short note, right? And by the end of the quarter, we sit down and say, how well did we do, not against my dreams as a manager, okay? But against what we agreed we were going to do, right? Amazing. And then finally, ethics. Finally, probably not. It's probably the most important, right? Let me tell you this. We, at the height of my career at Google, could hire anyone we want, okay? But as I told you, you could hire the smartest, the highest energy, with the wrong ethics, and they will kill you.
Yeah.
Right? The challenge with our world today, listen to this, is we believe in what's legal, not what's ethical.
Yeah.
Okay? And not everything that's legal is ethical. Okay? Crushing your competitor is legal. It's not ethical.
Bad-mouthing them. Yeah.
You can get away with it.
Yeah, but
okay?
it's not ethical.
But it's not ethical. Ethics is to treat others as you want to be treated.
Yes.
Okay? And I know that sounds really weird in a business environment. But there were times when difficult markets, without mentioning names, with very difficult governments, without mentioning names, would allow me to sit on the table and actually advise them on their technology strategy, okay? Because they knew I would ethically tell them what I believe is good for their country, okay? There were times where, I'd be called by a competitor that says, I think there is a room for us to cooperate on A, B, or C. Why? Because they knew that if they opened up to me, and of course under NDA and everything, that we'd have an ethical,
Conversation.
correct conversation. The challenge is that you don't see the value of ethics in your daily results and sales results and call center, occupancy and so on and so forth. Okay? The problem is that those things take a little longer to show up. Okay? Well, I will promise you that if there was one thing I did well in my career, okay, it was that every customer I ever dealt with in my life, I dealt with ethics. At least I tried. Okay, and I'm not a saint, but I really tried. Why? Because I wanted to treat others as I wanted to be treated. I felt really hurt when people treated me unethically.
Yeah.
I didn't want others to be treated that way. I didn't think I was clever enough to get away with it. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And then all of those customers over the years became prime ministers, and they became CEOs, and they became, as I aged, right? And there was a moment later in my career where I could pick up the phone on my mobile phone and call the prime minister of a country as a friend, right?
Yeah.
Why? Because they trusted me.
Trust.
Now, believe it or not, there is no asset you can ever build in business that's valued more than trust. No asset, okay? And yes, of course, your short-term blindness of achieving the target or getting a promotion or whatever might tell you to do something that breaks that trust a little bit, but it just gets me there faster. Yeah, it will get you there faster, but it will get the one that builds the trust much further as the years progress.
How do we build trust in organizations?
I think the transparency helps a lot.
Yeah.
Okay? I think the truth is that I believe that you have to go through the test of how would I feel like if I was at the receiving end of what I'm doing to others. How would I feel like if I sold the client something that didn't work as they expected it to? How would I feel like if I was the client? How would I feel like if I bought something and then realized there was a feature missing, or that I could buy it cheaper elsewhere? Okay? Cleverness of the capitalist world.
And they reward it. This is the thing.
In the short term.
And this is why I'm doing this podcast, because I want us to start rewarding good leaders.
It's not going to happen.
You don't think?
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The easiest path is the only available path to the dumber ones, because they don't know how to do the difficult path.
Can we train them to see the value
No,
in doing
what
the
you
difficult
can.
path?
So the problem with our world is that we want the world to change. The only person that can change is you.
True.
Okay, so if you really want to prove to the world that doing business ethically is a more successful way to do it, become an ethical business person and succeed. And the more people will see that, the more people will say, it might even end up being an article in one of the business magazines, right? As ethical business is better for you than unethical business, and then everyone will repeat the slogans.
It's true, and the studies have shown, and there are purpose-driven organizations are more profitable. There are so many studies out there, and I will highlight them a little bit later on. I want to go back to your book, Solve for Happy, and the formula you've designed around happiness. How can leaders apply this formula today to create happier workplaces that provide a thriving culture and environment for employees and for themselves, of course?
Should leaders create a happier workplace? I think that's one of the more interesting challenges. Where leaders, somehow, somewhere, someone stood on the cover of a magazine and, you know, wore a striped, suit and was like very grumpy and was like, yeah, people perform best when they're stressed, like when under pressure. Like, who's that idiot? Somehow, again, management and leadership, huh?
Yeah.
If you squeeze people as gears in a machine, you get 5% more if you stress everyone, right?
Yeah.
But the studies will tell you people who are happier are 37% more productive. It doesn't take a study to understand that. They report less absent, sick leave. They are committed. They're in a good mood, so their colleagues like them. Their customers like them. They are more innovative. They build better human connections and so on. Right? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when we used to offer lunch at Google, it was a very simple calculation. It was cheaper from a man-hour point of view or a woman-hour point of view, an employee-hour point of view, that you get people to sit in the sun and chat in California. And what did they chat about? Work, right? Mm-hmm. Cheaper than them taking an hour and a half to go somewhere crappy and wait in line and then get an unhealthy meal and then drive all the way back in traffic and come back exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So there is value to creating a happy workplace. People don't backstab you as much if you really want to get it to the bottom of the mind of most managers and leaders when they're happy. Okay? Yeah. When they're happy, they'll just make you happy. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Okay? They'll deliver the results.
And they make the customers happy in return.
100%, right? Yeah. The question is, how do you make an organization happy? It's a very interesting question. So, two sides to the happiness equation is that happiness is events minus expectations. Okay, it's not there is no certain event that will ever make anyone happy. So you can give someone more money and it will make them happy for a week and not happy afterwards. Or you can give someone money and it will save their life. Literally, if their daughter or son needed the money, it will make them very, very happy. Or if you give someone, like, in my latter years at Google, I didn't even look at my bonus letters. It's like, right? The thing is this. The thing is, you compare what life is giving you to what you want life to give you, or you compare what the corporation is giving you to what you want the corporation to give you, and that would result in being happy or unhappy. Okay? Yeah. So from one side, that means that happiness is a personal choice, right? Because there's nothing the organization can do to make anyone happy. Okay? As a matter of fact, the only thing they can do is to stop making people unhappy. There's a very big difference. Okay? So if you stop making people unhappy, they can make the choice to be happy. But there is nothing you can do to someone, give to someone, that is guaranteed to cause happiness. Yeah. Okay? What you can do is remove the reasons for unhappiness. If you remove the reasons for unhappiness, what's left behind is happy. Okay? So that's one side. The other side is what we spoke about, transparency. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Events minus expectations. The reason why the events in the minds of an employee are missing the expectations is either because you're lying to them, or because you're hiding things from them, so they're making up the rest of the story themselves, okay? Or because there is gossip in the corridors because you haven't told everyone what's going on. Okay? Or because, you sat them down at the end of the quarter and said that they didn't perform when you didn't tell them what they should do at the beginning of the quarter. So you're sort of almost tricking them. There is no transparency. So it's happiness is found in the truth, really, in organizations, just making it very clear. Yeah. Yeah. Spending the time and effort. By the way, as a leader, you're not supposed to work. You're not supposed to work. You're supposed to lead. Okay? Which basically means the majority of your time is with your team. You're sitting with your team more than you're actually doing shit with your own hands.
That's excellent advice for leaders, actually. That's really good. Have you seen in your career, or even now, do you have examples of where applying these happiness practices, removing the unhappiness, has gotten businesses far?
Google is a great example of that. Again, I mean, we had people complaining about, so when we ran the business in California, we had offices in Silicon Valley and offices in San Francisco. And sometimes the people who lived in San Francisco worked in the San Francisco office and then occasionally moved to a job in the Silicon Valley office.
Yeah.
And that happened so much that people would be commuting back and forth. And they were very upset because, it's an annoying commute. It's an hour every day and going an hour back, and
Yes.
it's traffic jam, and right? And so we could, have given them, $200 more a week and said, buy a better car.
Or a home closer to the office.
Or rent a
Rent a place
right?
closer to the office.
But then that impacts the time with their families and friends and where they want to live and so on and so forth, right? What we did is we just started to give them bus services where the bus is large enough for them to have a very comfortable seat or a meeting room, like a meeting table, okay? To have very fast internet connection so that they can start their video conferencing meetings as soon as they get on the bus. Fast Wi-Fi, slow but completely comfortable, a small coffee machine on the side, drinks and breakfast and what have you. And simply we said, and your hours begin from the minute you enter the bus. Okay?
Yeah.
So suddenly they were like, okay, so I'm in that bus for an hour or 2 hours or 1 hour, 50 minutes or whatever. It's normally an hour, right? But I'm working. I'm in my meetings already. I have to show up at the bus at 9 a.m. to start my work, not 7:45 to get to work in time to get to my meeting, right? We removed the reason for unhappiness. We didn't give them anything because take home, there's nothing new or extra, but there is the reason for unhappiness went away.
Remove the obstacles,
Yeah.
facilitate things for them. That's amazing. We were also talking about AI, and let's talk about technology and how can we use technology to facilitate and remove unhappiness as well in organizations using technology.
Technology makes us miserable. Are you kidding?
Okay. Is there hope?
Yeah, once again, this was a joke, by the way. I mean, there's nothing. Nothing has an inherent value of good or bad, right? So you can use CRM to create reports for the boss, okay? And every salesperson in the organization will become miserable. Or you can use CRM to increase the effectiveness of the sales process. If you choose to use it that way, every salesperson will be very thankful for you because every proposal that's ever been written is documented. Every communication to the technical teams is quicker. Every resource is available for you. If the boss says everyone log everything so that in the weekly revenue call, the boss sees a chart that he or she glimpse over in 2 seconds, and then everyone's worked for this for 3.5 weeks, everyone's miserable. Okay, your choice.
Yeah. I wanted to highlight something actually that I read recently about turnover in CEOs. So Fortune magazine actually wrote an article recently about how CEO turnover is at a record high time. With here it says CEO turnover, so about 175 CEOs leaving their posts in 2022. That's a 30% increase compared with 2021, and up to 13% compared with the next highest year, 2018. So we're seeing a 39% increase year over year of CEO turnover, and there was one particular article on I think the CEO of HSBC, if I'm not mistaken. And it's about making the choice to leave the stressful life of being a CEO. You're saying as you get higher up into the corporate ladder, it becomes a nightmare. It becomes more complex. A lot of politics gets in the way. You don't want to get involved, but you have to get involved. And at the same, how do you strike that balance? And at the end, you're done. I mean, so. What do you advise leaders who are in this position today? What can they do? And is it sort of related to why you made your book? Unstressable.
Unstressable is very timely, to be honest.
So, and definitely very timely. And I love the reason why you and Alice created it. You know, when Alice said, we talk about reasons for how to make people happy, and you know me, I'm into the happiness space as well, and we're so obsessed with making people and making things maybe work in a happier way. But like you said, it's about removing the unhappiness. It's about removing the stress markers, right? Yeah. So what can Unstressable, how can Unstressable help CEOs today, leaders?
So first of all, thank you for the moment of compassion for the CEOs.
Yeah, actually, I'm starting to feel more compassionate towards them.
I don't know if those stats are really a big deal. I mean, 175 of tens of thousands of CEOs, right? I really also think we should define what a CEO is, but it's not a lie, it's not a secret that stress is killing us all, okay? And even I, who wrote Unstressable, who is a very, very serious happiness practitioner, who goes on a 40-day silent retreat every single year to try and connect to myself and recharge and reflect and so on. I can't escape the day-to-day stress of the modern world. The thing is, however, I make those choices to be able to not feel that stressed, to be able to give myself the breaks before I burn out, to be able to prioritize and drop projects as exciting as they may seem, so that I make sure that what I focus on makes me happier and makes me more energized and has takes the world further, perhaps, with more impact. However, stress, believe it or not, and the reason we were encouraged to write this, is a choice. So interesting when you really understand it. Huh? It's not even, we don't just choose to be stressed. We wear it as a badge of honor. So weird.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like, look at me, I'm busy. That means I'm important.
That word.
Yeah.
I'm trying to erase it from my vocabulary.
It's so interesting, huh? It is. Yeah. Even more interesting is that we fear not being busy, because what would we do if we're not busy? We'd be at the mercy of our own brains.
Yeah.
Right? And no one wants that. We bury ourselves in work and in challenges and stress as a result. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting side of Unstressable is this. If you look at stress in physics, in objects, stress is not the result of a force applied to an object. Okay, It's not the external reason. Okay, stress is the force divided by the cross-section of the area of the cross-section of the object. Right? Okay. So that's what we learned in physics. This is why the hoof of a camel doesn't sink in the sand. It's because the weight of the camel, more than a ton, is distributed across a very large area.
Yeah.
Okay? That's interestingly the same with humans. Stress in humans is not just the result of the external stressors in your life. By the way, external stressors are actually not the big stressors most of the time. It's the internal stressors. It's the way we think about things and obsess about things and nag ourselves about things.
And it's the same with happiness, really. They say it's 10% of what influences your happiness is events.
Yeah.
The rest of it, it's
how you
genetics and
it's
behavior
not genetics,
and choice.
No. Let's
No,
not
not
go
even
into
genetics?
Let's not go in the genetics conversation. But we can come back to
okay,
it.
We'll come back to that.
But the trick is this. Huh? The trick is there were events that made me freak out in my 20s, that I managed to deal with in my 30s, that I dealt with ease in my 40s, and in my 50s I laugh at them. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the same event. What changed is my skill set. So in humans, stress is the stressor divided by the skills and resources and contacts, if you want, abilities that you have to deal with it, which basically means you can develop your square area and become unstressable. That was a very interesting promise when we started the work on Unstressable, to understand that with a clear example. Every single one of us, events that freaked you out in your 20s, you laugh at them in your 50s, right? So there are skills where you can be subjected to challenges, but not be stressed, right? Those skills may be as simple as limiting, okay? And maybe as complex as learning the different languages. We say there are 4 modalities of stress. You know, stress affects you, again, very rarely discussed, but it's the core of the work. It's to understand that there is not one stress. There is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual stress.
Yeah.
And that each of those speaks a very different language to you. And each of those, can be treated and dealt with in a very different way, right? So the easiest thing to do to start is to ask yourself, and I know this may upset a few people, but around 80% of what you do at work is not necessary.
Ooh, that's a big statement.
I absolutely stand by, especially as a senior leader.
Exactly.
Okay, so I had without mentioning names, a dear friend, became a dear friend, but a CEO of a very, very, very senior organization, very senior, okay, who came to my office in Google X. And, he was like, yeah, I'd like to see this and that. And I was like, oh, I wanted to show you this. And he said, no problem, I have all the time. It was around 1 o'clock after lunch or something. I was like, oh, you don't have anything else today? He says, no, I'm free. I was like, how can I don't know, I said, how can someone as senior as you have free time? And he said, I work 4 hours a day. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, look, any meeting that's less than an hour is not worthy of my time. People wanted to keep pushing meetings of half an hour into my agenda, okay, to discuss operational things, which are the reasons I hired them for, okay? If a topic is not big enough to be discussed in an hour, it's not CEO level, okay? Number 2 is, even if it is CEO level and we sit down and we start to talk about it, okay, and then it overruns, then we need an hour buffer in the middle, okay? So it is an hour and another hour, so it's 4 meetings a day, okay? And most of the time, by the way, I go into those meetings and 20 minutes in, I go like, you guys are not prepared. This is not good use of anyone's time, right? Go prepare. And they'll go like, yeah, but when can we catch you again? And I respond by saying, I'm free. I do nothing. Like, I work 4 hours a day, right? And the game is, I said, and so what do? You show up at work 4 hours a day? He said, no, the rest of the time I'm talking to people.
Of course.
I'm walking the corridors. I'm sitting with the actual stuff that matters.
Back to your point when you said they're supposed to lead, not actually do the work.
I'm sitting with everyone from the driver to the manufacturer to the engineer to the listening to their points of view, listening to what they're doing.
That's
okay?
interesting.
Now the trick is we choose not to do that. We choose to be busy. Okay? Why? Because it's the easy solution available to those who are not very capable. Okay?
Back again to easy versus
if you're capable, you learn to trust the team that you hired or replace the team that you don't trust. Okay? Because if you trust the people that you hired, okay, you'd insult them by getting into their business.
Absolutely.
And my very first meeting with everyone I've ever hired, I mean, understand, I was hiring regional VPs that had regional directors reporting to them, that had country managers reporting to them. Seriously, if you're that senior and I tell you that you don't know what you're doing, it's horrible, right?
Yep.
So my first meeting with every one of them was simply to say, look, I am not responsible for the business. You are responsible for the business, and I'm responsible for you. Okay? If you deliver,
Nice.
I'll deliver.
Yeah.
If you deliver, I'll deliver. If you deliver the business, I'll deliver the best environment for you to do business, and I'll make you very happy. And that was my job. And then the rest of the day, I pretended to be busy.
I want to be a leader.
There you go. No, but
It's a nice job.
the problem is 2 issues. One is fear, and the other is ego.
Right.
Okay, so the leader will have the fear that if I hand over to those people, will they fuck it up? Sorry for my English. Okay, will they mess it up? Right? And you don't trust the people that you hired. Hire differently. If you can't trust that they will not mess it up, why did you hire someone you can't trust that will not mess it up? Right?
And then they get into this cycle of
That's
letting
ego.
them go,
That's
hiring
ego.
again, not trusting them, hiring again.
100%. But the other side of the equation is ego. Is that how can I hire someone who knows better than I, okay? And I need to show up and show them my value by telling them that they're stupid.
Yeah,
That's
and,
so
and
stupid.
That's happening a lot, by the way.
Because if my country manager in Poland, for example, was an incredibly intelligent human being, okay? And whatever I did, I had no idea how to understand Poland better than him, okay? By definition, he knows that business 200 times better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I show up and try to make myself look intelligent? I basically had a very simple deal, okay? You're responsible for this business. Here are the cultural guidelines. Here are the compliance guidelines. Please don't break those, okay?
Yeah.
And by the way, call me if you need me. If you don't call me, I'll assume everything's going well,
Yeah.
okay? If you don't call me and things are not going well, at the end of the quarter, you're going to miss. And that may mean that our relationship ends, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, even then, I was burnt out, okay? But that's because the organization was growing really quickly. We were doing so many things at the same time. And as I said at the beginning, at any moment in time, there were 80 issues that required my attention,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, there were no tensions in those issues. There was a lot of work, but no stress. Very, very big difference. And my square area, okay, that was handling those challenges, it was not my skill set. It was my skill set and my extended team's skill set combined, okay? And together we were carrying all of that stress. Very different organization. I'm so happy I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing.
So from the book Unstressable, can you give me some practical steps that today employees can apply if, let's say, they are going through a scenario where there is toxicity in the workplace, be it in the management or the leadership? What are some ways they can start implementing right away to maybe accept the situation? How can they manage their judgments, their emotions around it? What can you say? What will they take out of this book?
So I should say a lot. No,
Yeah.
No,
I'm sure.
Let's start with why do we break? Okay. So stress in itself, even though it's sold to you as a good thing, is not necessarily a good thing unless it's used in context, right? So stress is a good thing if you're running away from a tiger. The very very basic definition of stress is a reconfiguration of the human machine to make you capable of superhero powers, right? To run away from the tiger, fight or flight, or to focus on a presentation or whatever, okay? When used within context, it's very good for you, okay? But context is in the tiger script, half an hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, okay? We break under 3 conditions. Condition number 1 is trauma, with a capital T, right? Condition number 2 is burnout.
Yeah.
And condition number 3 is what I call anticipation of a threat. Okay? Let's go about those 3 quickly and see how they
Maybe
map
from
in
a
the
work context.
how they map in the workplace. A trauma in the work, in life in general, is extreme stress in a very short period of time that leads you to break. So you get extreme stress that is beyond your square area, your capability to deal with. In the workplace, it would be losing your job, or losing a colleague, or
It could be even something in your past life. I mean, but personal life. That kind of.
That's a small T. But when it happened, it's a capital T, and it broke you.
Okay.
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 So when it happened, it broke you. Okay, and when it broke you, 91% of us will get at least one PTSD-inducing traumatic event in life. Once in our life, right?
Yeah.
Many will get many. Okay, you know me, so I got quite a few, right?
Yeah.
The you break, but interestingly, 93% will recover in 3 months, 96.7% will recover in 6 months. Okay, so trauma doesn't kill us. As a matter of fact, as we recover, trauma makes us stronger through post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
So interestingly, one of the 3 ways we break is so externally focused. It happens from outside. It's so unplannable for, okay, and so unexpected and so severe that there is no point trying to work on that. Anyway, the good news is you're gonna recover.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's the other 2 that break us, and at work it's the other 2 that break us even more. Okay, one is burnout, and burnout is not the result of any single event in your day. Okay, burnout is the sigma of all of the events multiplied by their frequency, multiplied by the time of their application, multiplied by their intensity. Okay, and interestingly, when we break and burn out, it's normally because a cup of coffee fell and broke. Right, an event that would normally not kill you at all. But anything that is sub-trauma keeps adding up. And then one last straw and you break your back.
Yeah.
Okay? So that happens at work a lot. Why? Because you're constantly trying to prove that you're capable. You're constantly allowing more things into your agenda. You're constantly trying to wear the badge and say, look at me, I'm doing so much. And that's, by the way, so stupid, because if you do less and do it well, you'll be more appreciated at work. The exercise is very straightforward. Okay? The exercise is next week, and sit down with a paper and a pen and write down everything that stressed you last week. By the way, there is no work-life balance. Okay? There is no work and life. Work and life are one thing. So write down everything that stressed you last week. Okay, that colleague did this, that project did that boss did this, my partner called at that time, and so on and so forth. Okay, write them all down, and remove the ones you can remove going forward. And there are so many of them. Your commute is annoying. Okay, yeah. Can you either remove it by going at a different time, or make it easier by taking some music and a good cup of coffee with you? Or halving it by having one of your colleagues drive every other day, so you carpool, okay? Or cutting it by 40% by working from home twice a week, whatever. Okay? If commute is stressing you, don't let it be there and tell yourself it's not breaking my back, because alone it's not. But when it adds to other things, your alarm in the morning, okay? If it's too loud and it shocks you out of your bed and you snooze it 3 times, okay? Try to snooze it 2 or not snooze it at all by sleeping early, okay? And choose a nice soothing alarm to wake up to in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay? Simple things.
Some small changes that they
can
do.
But write down the full list and remove them one by one. And when you commit to removing one, you remove it.
And you remove them by finding solutions for them.
You either replace them, you're finding solution, or basically remove them from your life. So your commute is killing you. Go and find a place to rent that is closer to work.
Yeah.
Or right.
Yeah.
Or you reduce their intensity, okay, or frequency, or by you add joy to them so that you balance out the intensity.
So from an organizational point of view, it's very interesting to maybe try with employee engagement surveys is the question, what stresses you today?
What's stressing you?
What's stressing you?
What's stressing us most of the time? Annoying meetings.
Yes.
Yeah? Why do we go to the annoying
distract
meetings?
Us.
Yeah, because we want to show up at the meeting. Okay, and we don't have the courage to say, this is not for me. Honestly, I don't benefit from that meeting at all. Why do you want me there? Right?
So from a stress point of view, how can we make people speak up and say what they really think and be honest?
People are not aware of what's stressing them.
Okay.
That's the problem. The problem is when you ask someone, how are you today? They'll say, I'm fine. They're not aware that they are 2 days away from breakdown.
Yeah.
They're not aware that they shouldn't be 2 days away from breakdown. They're not aware that the alarm in the morning or the social media that they looked at before they left home, or the message the email that they read as soon as they got in the car, you know.
So what could help bring that awareness to light? Do we need sessions?
Of course.
What can we do? What can organizations do?
You see, this is the interesting thing. Instinctively, as humans, if you have a sore throat, you think that something's wrong.
And you go and see the doctor.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're about to burn out, you don't tell anyone about it. And you don't slow down.
That's true.
Right? So
you kind of feel ashamed, actually, that you're burning out. There's a feeling of shame. There's a feeling of weakness and fear. Yeah, that you're seen as incompetent.
Correct, right? So the trick is, if you start to find human connections at work, you'll realize that there are so many that are also burning out, and then maybe together you can bring it up to the attention of HR, not as a complaint.
Exactly.
Okay. The idea is, if I can go to my bosses and say, "You're messing up my life," then I'm, basically handing over that's not the responsibility. Okay. 90% of the time, it's your responsibility. Okay. And burnout is not the 10% that they're adding; it's the 90% that you're letting in.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the end of the day, if your boss calls you on Saturday and says, "I want a report right now," that's unacceptable behavior. How do we bring that to the attention of the boss? How do we bring that to the attention of HR or to whoever that can help me solve this? Yeah. How can I talk to my boss about it? But not every one of us is stressed because of this. We're stressed because dealing with, this guy is difficult, and dealing with that person is annoying, and the number of emails we'd have to respond to. Yeah. All of these are choices, believe it or not.
Your 1 billion movement, how can we push it through the corporate world?
So I have Unstressable. Unstressable at work is launching in September.
Fantastic.
And the idea, not a book, but Unstressable as at work is a membership.
Okay.
So we meet monthly for the leadership to talk about stress and how we can remove stress from the workplace. And it's basically, so if you recall, we spoke about that once, that Solve for Happy was the first element of 1 billion happy, to say, if you can choose happiness, here are some techniques you can find that will help you. Okay. That little voice in your head, and Unstressable, and hopefully next year after next is Finders Keepers, and so on. These are things to remove unhappiness.
Yeah.
Okay, to remove stress, to remove the difficulty that face you. Even Scary Smart is basically a message to say, be aware that AI is going to magnify our tendencies, and it can make us very unhappy if we're unhappy now, right? Now, basically the idea here is, we together can start to develop techniques, okay, that we can deploy as leaders in the organization, but also for the organization, that can remove that layer of unnecessary stress. By the way, there is some stress that's good for us. Okay, simulated additional unnecessary stress is just wasting our energy, costing us a lot more on mental health, and really not delivering results at all.
And do you think leaders today can upgrade their skills to, for example, maybe I would like your point of view on coaching and coaching skills and coaching conversations. Do you think that's also something that leaders need to look into, apart from dealing with, the different concerns employees have, the stresses of the work, and the triggers here and there? What about coaching? Does coaching
coaching when the coach is good is incredible. Coaching when the coach is not is a horrendous mistake. Okay, and I think the biggest challenge with coaching, to be honest, is that bad coaches give a very bad reputation to good coaches. Okay, however, I have to say, so believe it or not, coaching and therapy. So my wonderful wife is a therapist. To individuals, couple therapy, and founders and C-level therapy, which is such an interesting practice.
Wow.
Okay, so she would basically be, sort of doing a couple therapy for two co-founders, okay, of an organization that are not working well together, right? Mm-hmm. And so coaching from one side talks about skills and and techniques and so on that helps you engage in the real world. Therapy, on the other side, is actually helping you see what you need to, the inner work you need to do to be able to work better with others, to get to your maximum productivity, to remove your scripts, and so on and so forth. Sadly, it takes a lot of time and a lot of failure for a leader to go like, shit, I know how to start a company, I know how to read a P&L, I know how to do this, but I don't know how to deal with me, right? I don't know how to ask the questions that are hindering me. Is it useful? It's the most useful thing ever. Do we have appetite for it in the corporate space? Not as often.
Maybe not in that level of depth, but maybe that's where coaching can bring some, some kind of skill set to begin, maybe to as simple as changing language, for example. I hear a lot of leaders use negative language. I want to slash this, I want to destroy this. I mean, it's a simple language change. Or instead of, maybe mentorship is also another aspect to help maybe foster a culture of learning and a culture of growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Risky.
All risky.
Right. Yeah. So no. I mean, risky means if you change the language, but you haven't changed the underlying reasons you were using that language. You would be in a very interesting, the leader would be in a very interesting place.
Authenticity will play
Correct.
a big role, and people will pick up on the inauthenticity.
But by the way, sometimes the leader is using this language just because this is the norm. You learn a few 4-letter words when you come into an organization, and you just repeat them, right? But the truth is that sometimes there is an underlying insecurity, an underlying attachment. So take the simplest thing. Your relationship to money impacts your, romantic relationships as much, if not more, than it impacts your founder responsibilities. Your relationship to money as a founder, if you're too afraid to lose it, or too blinded by it, or too, right? And these are all underlying scripts that require you to do a lot of inner work. Okay, and and there are so many. I mean, I used coaching and therapy and mentoring and even spiritual conversations, which are quite an interesting amount of work that basically will lead to the best leader because the work has been done inside, right? And I find it quite incredible because, of course, myself being chief business officer of Google and so on. I get a lot of senior managers that will trust what I tell them, because, hey, you're as senior as the corporate world can get. But the truth is, I repeat the same things that any, person who's done the inner work will actually tell them. It's just that I say it with authority and credibility, because I ran very complex businesses. But the truth is, those are not words that I learned in the corporate world. Those are words that I learned in my spiritual practice, in my own personal individual work, from coaches, from mentors, from others who that imprinted on me in a way that made me a person that's more resilient under stress, that's more compassionate to my teams, to my customers, and so on and so forth.
There are people saying about the Gen Z generation being not people, but really, again, studies are saying that they are the least resilient. They've had it all. They have a very a need for gratification in the moment. They don't want to make that extra effort to achieve. They believe they can get promoted very quickly just by doing a little bit of work. Their parents who were their millennial parents who were so, they woke up to the idea of we need to take care of the well-being of our children, and we need to make sure that they're okay emotionally. But that's turning this generation or this generation to become maybe not, let's say, well equipped to handle stress today. What do you what, I mean, do you agree to this, firstly? Do you see this happening? I don't know, your daughter is not a Gen Zer. She's...
I find it very interesting that we can generalize that way. And that we can only look at that side instead of looking at how tech-savvy they are, how informed they are, how values-driven they are, how rebellious they are, okay?
Creative,
which can always be seen as good assets. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
Typically, every generation comes with a very different character. Okay, it's typical. That's actually nothing to be alarmed of. There are exceptions to every one of those. So there will be someone that will be extremely resilient. It's but not maybe as informed or whatever. It doesn't matter. The thing is, I don't know how to say this in a loving way. Yeah, but a good leader takes what is given to them and turns it into something amazing, right? And believe it or not, Gen Z are looking for nothing more than a good leader.
Yeah.
Okay, if you tell them as a manager with a whip to do certain things, they're not going to do it. But if you sell to them because they believe in their value system of making the world a differently better place, if you show them that together you can do something that's going to make everyone a lot of money, but also going to make the world slightly better, oh man, right?
Yeah.
So who is to blame here?
Good one. As a final conclusion, now that you mentioned a good leader, that's all we're looking for, a good leader. Can we describe in a very brief way what a good leader looks like? How does that good leader behave? Just very quickly. Certain things that come to mind.
The common things that everyone knows is that they're normally not, they don't nominate themselves. They normally are elected. They normally don't want to be a leader. They normally don't admit that they're the leader, and they normally, believe it or not, take the burden rather than the perks of it. And they normally, believe it or not, in Islam we say, or is it an Arabic proverb? I don't know, but basically خادم سيد المرء خادمهم, basically that the leader actually is there to serve his people, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
His people don't work for him or her. He or she works for her people or him or his people. And as a result, a good leader eventually takes a very unusual, seemingly more challenging path to a much bigger target. Okay, and they get to it with more ease because there is no waste of time, waste of effort in argument and realignment and politics.
It's doing things with ethics, with conviction and passion, and integrated into their own values. Yeah.
And they're normally loved by their teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll hear a lot of people say, I had this boss was the best boss I've ever had. Goes with teachers, goes with, they are certain people that stick in your mind because they did something so small, yet a small gesture, yet so big an impact in your life at the time. And for us who want to see the world a better place and who want to make a difference, for me, for that matter, I don't know about you, I'm always, concerned with, have I made this person happy today? Have I made the world a better place today? Have I made today better than it was yesterday in any way?
Yeah.
How can I impact more people in a more positive way? And when I find myself that I haven't impacted, maybe in my mind not enough, I always go back and say, look, at the end of the day, human beings are very difficult to change. They're complex creatures. And if they do want to change, as you said, it's got to go back to you. Yeah. It's got to go back to the person themselves and make the choice to change, to be better,
Absolutely.
to be stressed, to be happy, to see the good side of things or the bad side of things. It's choice at the end.
It's all a choice.
It's all a
It's
choice.
all rising up to what actually matters.
That's beautiful. What matters to leaders today? Is it the profit? Is it people?
Yeah, which
How
leads
do
to
you
what?
how do you strike that balance?
Which leads to what? I mean, one of my most, I think, you know, my years at Google, I had incredible leaders, definitely two of the most valuable leaders I've ever worked for. And one of them, Larry Page, used to say that when you're creating something, create something like a toothbrush, something that you know, solves a big problem for humanity and solves it well enough for people to use it twice a day. Okay?
Wow.
And then the result of that is that you'll make a lot of money. I think that's almost exactly the opposite of how management runs. Management says, look for something that people are interested in and make it a couple of cents cheaper than your competitor and sell a lot of it. Okay? Solve no problem whatsoever, but make money. So they start from the P&L, not from the problem they're trying to solve. And
Or
I think,
create a problem. And
or convince you that there is a problem.
or convince you that there's a problem, and then make
Yeah.
make a solution out of it,
Yeah.
to make money out of it. Mo, is there anything you'd want to say about the topic and you know, the show itself?
Good luck with this. This is a great initiative. I hope people come back and listen after all the crap that I said.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but good luck with this. This is an important initiative.
I want to, just as a final thing, I want to know what you're doing today, Mo. Are you working with organizations today to step it up on the unstressable, happier world we're trying to create?
I came to a point in my career where it's almost becoming impossible to work one-to-one with anything.
Okay.
So most of my engagements are either at speaking level or workshop level or membership level or writing, basically.
Okay.
I think my bigger efforts are, you know, Slow Mo, my podcast, is quite a massive effort that's actually very, very interestingly different. Because it's an invitation to succeed in life without stressing yourself.
Yeah. To slowing down.
To take time, enough time to slow down. I'm not saying just slow down all the time, but take enough time to slow down. You know, my work on artificial intelligence is probably taking a very big chunk of my effort. We're working on a documentary, maybe another book.
Is it the flight story here?
Flight Story is part of that.
Yeah.
So I work on multiple efforts on AI. As a matter of fact, probably AI is taking 70% of my effort.
Okay.
Because it's an urgent call to action.
Absolutely. So the work on AI, can you just very briefly tell me what you do exactly, like around the work on AI?
There is a lot of awareness that needs to happen around ethical AI.
Ethics.
And,
Okay.
and if we don't adopt
Okay.
the ethics of AI, I think we're going to have a very rough patch in the history of
Absolutely.
humanity. Yeah.
So how can people reach out to you and who do you welcome to start this mission with you, especially on the AI mission?
I'm available on social media. I try to respond to every message on Instagram, Mo_Gawdat. And you can go to mogawdat.com if you want me to come and speak to your organization or something. Unstressable.com is the corporate side is more handled directly rather than online sign up like the Unstressable membership.
Of course.
But Unstressable.com is where the information is available. And then my podcast Slow Mo.
Yeah.
SLOMO is it's a nice break every week. I think.
Is.
Yeah.
It really is. It
Yeah.
really is. Mo, thank you so much for your time.
You're
Thank
very
you for your
welcome.
insights and your wisdom and sharing your experiences with how especially with your corporate life and
Yeah,
the
I don't speak about that often.
I
actually.
know, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I apologize if I took you back to the past. People should be talking about
It was
the future
good.
more.
It was good times.
But it was important for us to understand also, what you learned from that. What were the leadership lessons you took out of that? And we got a lot of insights from there. So thank you to all our viewers who are watching, and I hope to see you in another episode with a wonderful and interesting guest such as Mo. Mo, for me, in my heart and mind, you top them all.
Oh, no. It's just the beginning. Yeah.
It's just, it's the beginning, and it's many things, right? So thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Good luck with this. This is important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mo.